Hello and welcome to Just My Opinion Man. On today's show, we're going to do an FPL special and just sort of recap game weeks 1 through 4 of the new Fantasy Premier League season. And we're going solo today because Jaggi is just not a big FPL enthusiast. And in spite of me being on his case several times, he just hasn't made a team yet. But I, on the other hand, I am a big fan, playing for several years now. I will still remember when I first started, I was still a school kid and I didn't quite understand FPL में करना क्या होता है. I just thought you have to make a good football team. And so I will always remember the first team I ever made, played a 4-4-2 and put Michael Carrick with Yaya Toure in there. And if you play FPL, you obviously know that Carrick is obviously just a shit pick for Fantasy Premier League, no matter how good a player he was. So yeah, but always been playing, and to be honest, I haven't had the best few seasons in the last few seasons. And for me, I'm just going to clarify. For me, the metric of having a good season is doing well in my mini leagues, and I just playing for bragging rights. A few small time paid leagues here and there with a few friends. And so for me, doing having a good FPL season is basically maintaining interest throughout the season and still playing by game week 38 and just doing well against my friends. I know there's a lot of online content around FPL these days, and managers, I guess, supposedly look at top 10k finishes as a good metric, but I really don't read too much into that, and I play for myself, and yeah, whatever. So haven't had the best few seasons of late, but I think that's not a coincidence because I mean when I used to do regularly well in FPL was when I was back in college. I used to have so much time on my hands, the Delhi University life, right? But I used to have so much time on my hands that I would watch all the Premier League games in the weekend, and I would even sit through 90 minutes of a Cardiff versus Burnley or whatever. I remember George Boyd was one of the great FPL Moneyball signings. So yeah, but haven't done too well of late because I suppose वही just settled into a corporate life और फिर क्या matches miss हो जाते हैं काफ़ी सारे, and वही मतलब just to have a social life, weekend pay, couldn't watch all the matches, so didn't do quite well. Would read a few stats of players here and there who I haven't been watching, and for me the eye test is key. Unless I watch a player, I don't know how they're going to do or how they're likely to do. So yeah, with all that aside, but this season things are different because this season I anticipate that I mean people, I mean I'm mostly home throughout the weekend, right? And going to be watching all matches. So far the first 4 weeks of the Premier League to sab dekha hai matlab. And I think this trend is going to continue throughout the season. So I think I'm quite excited about the prospects of this FPL season. And well, honestly, I have also invested a little more this season in paid leagues. तो मतलब seriously खेलना है. And ऐसे करेंगे. So yeah, without, oh, just heads up in case it is required at all. I am having a rum and coke while I record this, and in case you are having a drink too while you listen to this, a virtual cheers. And yeah, it's still sort of the afternoon on a midweek, but 2020 yaar, day drinking chalti hai. There are no rules, so it is what it is. Whatever. So yeah, so what I'm going to do today is just sort of talk through my thinking into building this FPL team that I have, game weeks 1 through 4. And beginning with game week 1, I think we have the screen up on whatever, my team is up on the screen. So yeah, game week 1 was an unusual game week 1 this season because you obviously didn't have the two Manchester teams playing, and so there's a lot of heavy hitters in both teams, so it was an unusual start, a kind of different start, so that put a few spanner in the works in the plans of, because going into this FPL season, following on the back end of last season, I thought I would build my team around Bruno Fernandes because I just watching him. I just loved how he was playing. He was set at a very modest, I think, for his qualities at a very modest price of 10.5. And I know there were a lot of stats flying around that his open goal XG and all that weren't that high. But I mean, last season I took a punt of selling De Bruyne, getting Bruno in. Bruno was obviously much cheaper last season, and using the extra cash to put it around the rest of my team. But Bruno was so good last season, so my thought going into the game was that I just have to have him. But yeah, the first game week Manchester teams weren't playing, and so well, this is the final 14 I went with after making like at least 800 drafts or so. This is the final 14 I went with, and just gonna walk you guys through this. So for keeper options in game week 1, I mean, my thinking behind keepers is I don't like to invest too much in keepers, because that's one position I think that isn't much of a differentiator between teams. And I always tend likely to go for maybe sometimes 4.5 goalkeepers, but like I just also don't like that headache of whom to play in which week. So just sort of to make the decision easier, I went with Alex McCarthy from Southampton. I suppose once you settled on having just one 4.5 and a one 4.0 keeper, I suppose the decision always was between McCarthy and Matt Ryan. And even though I think Matt Ryan is technically the better goalkeeper, I went with McCarthy because I rate Ralph Hasenhüttl Southampton a bit more. I think they improved since they lost that 9-0 game to Leicester at home. I think since then they improved quite a lot. And so just went with Southampton's keeper. I also thought that his fixtures for the first like 10-12 game weeks were a bit better overall than Matt Ryan's, and I thought like at some point I might play the wild card in that span, right? So until then I went with McCarthy, and yeah, and Jed Steer on the bench, whatever. I never really expect a 4.0 goalkeeper to play really unless someone's injured or something. So yeah, that's that. With my back line, so gonna first like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's the obvious pick. Don't really need to explain. Like he was in all the teams. He was always gonna be in my team too at 7.5. I just think like he has to be there. More so for his attacking returns than for whatever clean sheets he's gonna get, and he's gonna get a lot of them too. So Arnold is obviously there. Went for Kyle Walker-Peters and Ben Davies, and on my bench, my defenders are Neil Taylor. Is he Neil Taylor? Charlie Taylor from Burnley, and Nathan Ferguson from Crystal Palace. Ben Davies and Kyle Walker-Peters, right? My two bench options, well, Taylor is there because I kind of rate Burnley's defense. You just know what you're going to get from Burnley. Sean Dyche, the Ginger Mourinho, is always going to set his teams up to play in a very similar way to lines of four and a very defensive team overall. So at 4.5, the fullback Charlie Taylor is a good option. Went for Nathan Ferguson. That was kind of like a stupid move because the reason I went with Nathan Ferguson, you always need a 4.0 defender, right? Like an enabler to put more money into other areas of your team. And I guess the only viable 4.0 options this season were Nathan Ferguson and there was Tyrick Mitchell from Crystal Palace. And obviously Tyrick Mitchell was going to play the first few games because of Van Aanholt's injury. But this is the stupid move I made. I picked Ferguson because of a more long-term thinking. Because I thought long-term, whenever, like, I mean, I'm never going to make a free transfer to change a 4.0 defender, right? So I put in Ferguson because I thought he is likelier to be in the starting 11 in the long term whenever he's back fit. The stupid decision, why I think it was a stupid decision in hindsight is because, I mean, I know how likely it was for me to do an early wildcard, which I did, which I will come to later. So for that, I mean, I could have really used Tyrick Mitchell in my 11 for the first 3 or 4 weeks. But whatever, what's done is done. Then Ben Davies, I mean, at 5, I know he's not the most attacking fullback, but I just thought I wanted Spurs cover. They had really good fixtures, and you always know that Mourinho is going to be a very defense-first manager, so he's likely to get some clean sheets. And so Ben Davies was my option there. and Kyle Walker Peters as my 4.5. I mean, ideally, didn't really want to do two Southampton defenders, but I picked Walker Peters because I rate him as a player. I think he's going to get good attacking returns. And his the other options at 4.5 were James Justin, who started the season really well, but like I didn't think that was likely to happen. And his again, the same reason as why I picked Ferguson over Mitchell, because I thought James Justin, whenever Ricardo Pereira is back fit, I anticipated Castagna to move to the left wing back role, and I didn't think Justin was going to be a long term option, so didn't go with him. Tariq Lamptey, young Lamptey is another option. And there were other 4.5 options, Ruben Vinagre and stuff, but before the season began, Vinagre was thought to be leaving for FC Porto, so didn't go with him. So yeah, I mean, really, 4.5, they were sort of all in the same ballpark for me, and went with Kyle Walker Peters because I thought, well, like I said, decent opening fixtures for Southampton, and I thought he can get the odd attacking return too, because he's quite an adventurous fullback. In my midfield, game week 1 went with Oba, Saint-Maximin, Heung-min Son, Salah, and Yves Bissouma on the bench just as a 4.5 guy who will maybe, whenever, if I ever need a bench guy to come in and just give me 2 or 3 points or whatever, Bissouma really just there. But the firepower is obviously up top with Salah and sorry, in the midfield with Salah and Aubameyang, and I think these were the two favorites for game week 1, the heavyweight options, because I mean, no De Bruyne, no Sterling, no Bruno, and they had two great fixtures, so Salah and Oba. Chose to captain Salah at home to Leeds over Oba. So this was, well, the divisive opinion in game week 1, right? Whom to captain, Oba or Salah. Oba was away to newly promoted Fulham, and Oba was in a great run of form. So which is why a lot of people, I think, went for Oba. But well, Salah at Anfield is just undeniable. And Leeds, I thought there was a good fixture, not because Leeds would be an easy match, but I always expected Marcelo El Loco Bielsa to come out and attack. Like he's never gonna back down against anyone. I think we all saw that with the display they put up at Anfield. Like if they're not scared to go out and attack Liverpool at Anfield, they're not gonna be scared to attack anyone. And I sort of expected that because uh, and like that bodes well for Liverpool, because Liverpool is devastating on the counter. In fact, they're better against teams who try to play good attacking football against them than they are against teams that set up in a low block. So for that reason, Salah, and obviously scored that hat trick, 2 penalties, etc. So yeah, he's there. Heung-min Son was also there as a placeholder for me, because as you can see, I also have Kane in attack, so I didn't really want to, and I have Davies in defense, so I didn't really want three. I never really like the thought of, unless you're a Liverpool or Man City, I never really like the thought of three players from the same team, because sometimes it can go wrong, right? Like it did for Spurs in game week 1. So Son, but he was, I think, the most premium option in that price bracket, in that 9.5 to 910 whatever price bracket, because like, even though I thought I wanted Ziyech or Pulisic, guys like that, but but they were unfit for game week 1, so Son was always the likelier option. Rashford wasn't playing one. Greenwood was also not. Greenwood also didn't have a fixture, so I put in Son. And the last pick in my midfield was Alan Saint-Maximin. I didn't really want Saint-Maximin at all. So some of these points are in conjunction with some of these picks are in conjunction with my attacking three. So I'll just, like, it's obvious, clear to see Callum Wilson, Harry Kane, and Alexander Mitrovic. And yeah, so I'll just go back to Saint-Maximin. I didn't really want him at all. In fact, like I really hate that 5 to 6.5 price bracket. Don't really like any of the players there, apart from maybe Phil Foden. But Phil Foden is also not really a guaranteed starter, so who knows. But I really hate that price bracket, because I mean, you can never be too sure about anyone there. They're all sort of like punts, right? So, and I didn't want a double Newcastle attack. But in spite of all that, why did I pick him? Because, well, at the 5.5 bracket, Saint Maximin's ownership was sky high. I think it was somewhere around like 27, 28% owned by 27, 28% teams owned him. And the reason I chose him was because I knew like a lot of people around me were gonna have him, and I personally didn't know too much about the other 5.5 options. Like the notable ones were Pedro Neto, Podence from Wolves. There were the Leeds options, but I didn't know too much about them. I wanted to see them play a few Premier League games first to see whom to pick. Obviously, after game week 1, I was really impressed with Jack Harrison, Mateus Klick, and Helder Costa, all 5.5. But I didn't have the foresight to have them from game week 1. And Suchek was the one other option. He was at 5, but he, apart from game week 1, he sort of had really rubbish fixtures. So even though I really like Suchek, and West Ham is on fire at this moment while I record this, West Ham's on fire. And Antonio and Suchek look like really, even Jared Bowen, they look like really good attacking options. Suchek is always going to be a threat from crosses from open play and from set pieces too. But yeah, Saint Maximin, bro, the thing is that I have watched this guy a lot, and he's just so unpredictable. Like when he's good, he can be so good, he can tear defenses up single-handedly. But he's so frustrating to watch sometimes. Like I was watching the first game they played against West Ham away, and I just disliked him so much. Like there are chances when he's 1v1 against a fullback, he can easily beat his man and put a cross in, but he'll just like do 3, 4 shimmies and just so frustrating to watch. But you know that he has a haul in him. Like he can just on any given day against any opposition, he can score 2 or whatever, have a double digit haul. So that was one of those picks that I just like picked him because I was scared that like in some of the teams he would be there, and if he has a good game week, like I'm gonna be behind from the start. I would hate that, so I just went with Saint Maximin, even though I didn't want to go with a Newcastle double attack. So you could say, why did I then pick Callum Wilson? Well, I wanted to pick Wilson because I think over the course of the season, Callum Wilson is going to be the talisman at Newcastle. And Newcastle, last season, they didn't score too many goals, but this season they look like a different side. They actually look more complete. They have a good fullback in Jamal Lewis. Like guys, they brought in Ryan Fraser has come in, and I think Uncle Steve Bruce has just found a new good 4-4-2 system. I was watching the first game with Callum Wilson playing off of Andy Carroll, and I mean Wilson was looking good. Like he scored 1 goal in game week 1, but he also got like 2 bonus points for that, and watched all his games since then. So Wilson is a good option for me. Alexander Mitrovic, well, just needed a 6.2 option. In a lot of my drafts, what I was doing was I didn't even like pick 3 playing strikers. I was going to go for 2 and pick a 4.5 striker like a Ryan Brewster or someone, and someone who's not really going to play, but just to put more money into my midfield. That's what my thinking was. But I ended up not doing that because like you also play FPL to have fun, right? And I mean, I just have enjoy the game more when I have more attacking players in my team. Because with defenders, even if you have the best of them, if they just concede a goal, then वो थोड़ा FPL interest कम हो जाता है, that their clean sheet points are gone. So for that reason, attackers, and you always are likelier to captain attackers. So I just wanted 3 playing attackers, and that's why with the 6.0 bracket, went for Mitrovic. And you can clearly see Mitrovic didn't like a lot of people were frustrated because Mitrovic didn't start game week 1 against Arsenal at home. But I wasn't too fussed about that because I anyway didn't expect too many returns from Mitrovic playing against Arsenal, and I thought that could also be down to some of manager Scott Parker's tactical thinking, because Arsenal were playing 3 at the back, and Mitrovic against a 3-man defense, he was probably Fulham were probably looking for a bit more mobility. So I mean, for that reason, I think he didn't start him, but I wasn't too fussed because I anyway picked Mitrovic because I think Fulham, I don't expect them to do well at all this season. They're my favourites to get relegated. But I thought if they score any goals at all, they're all going to come through this man, this Bulgarian beast. Bro, he looks so ripped. Crazy, right? So yeah, Mitrovic, whatever. But then Harry Kane. So if you would remember game week one, lots of people picked Timo Werner, right? And well, I didn't go for him as a Chelsea fan. And I mean, I think Timo Werner was the second highest owned player after Trent, and almost everyone had him. But I sort of anticipated the start that Chelsea have had, because first things first, so many new players coming in, so many new young players coming in. I think it always takes a little bit of time for the team to gel and have, their best outfit on the field. Also, Ziyech and Pulisic were injured. So, I mean, and I saw the Chelsea pre-season game against Brighton. We played well. Ziyech was playing that game. He got injured in that game, in fact. But my thinking was, until Ziyech comes in and is fit, I am not going to go for Timo Werner. I anticipated him to be frustrating in FPL terms in the first few weeks, because I thought maybe he could be partnered with a Giroud or a Tammy. Maybe he could play from that left channel like he is playing right now, until Pulisic is fit. So for that reason, I thought that going down the line, the Werner out transfer would be a very popular one. I saw a lot of people going Werner to Martial game week 2, or maybe Werner to Jimenez since after his fixture at Man City. So I anticipated, actually, with such a high ownership, if Werner gets transferred out a lot, I saw his price falling, and I don't like that in the first few weeks. So, and I thought, like, with Harry Kane, Kane gives me a great. The benefit of having Kane was that at 10.5, there's no striker more expensive than him, right? So you can go from Kane to anyone you want. So if Werner does well, I can just get him by selling Kane. But yeah, and also Spurs' first few fixtures were great. So if I didn't want too many Spurs people in my side, I would actually rather transfer out Son than Kane, because I expected Kane to do well. But then game week 1 happened. Spurs looked terrible against Everton. They had, I suppose, like two notable chances in the game, and they looked terrible. And so what I did was, I saw that game against Everton, and I took out. So yeah, this was my game week 1 team. Let's just finish game week 1 first. Scored 69 points, but more than half of that came through Salah as captain. No one else really returned for my team apart from Callum Wilson and Auba. So wasn't too pleased by game week 1. Game week 1 was a very high scoring week. So whatever. And then yeah, moving to game week 2. So what I did was, after the game against Everton, I transferred out Son and Kane right away, because Son was at a very high ownership. Kane wasn't that highly owned, but Son was at a very high ownership, and just that game was not convincing at all. Spurs looked so, like, uninspired. They looked like they're lacking any sort of creativity, and I didn't know how long that run was going to continue. So I just thought, and I had the perfect transfers in mind. I took a hit for game week 2. I took a hit to sell Son and Kane for Bruno Fernandes and Martial, because they had that fixture at home to Crystal Palace and a good run of fixtures after that. And like I said at the start of this show, that I always wanted Bruno in my team, and Martial I saw in the first international run of fixtures before the Premier League season began. I don't know who France were playing, but I saw a bit of that match, and Martial was looking like he's on fire. Like, he created chances out of nothing, out of thin air. Got an assist for a goal too for Griezmann, I think. So Martial was looking very good, and I expected Son to fall, and he did fall in price, right? And I thought the Spurs were looking so bad that this is a very safe hit to take. As it turned out, it almost got me into depression, man. Like, it was a terrible, terrible game week. Like, game week 2, my points total was 43 with a hit, and the average points that week were 59. And obviously, that famous Son 4-goal haul with 4 assists from Kane, and Kane got a goal himself too. And I was watching that game, Spurs playing at Southampton, and man, I need to have a sip of this drink first. I was watching that Spurs game at Southampton, and that that first half, believe me, Southampton were dominating Spurs. Spurs again looked so bad. And just coming back to after game week 1, like I'll go to Spurs played Lokomotiv Plovdiv. Some, uh, some I don't even know who. I guess this Bulgarian team. And Spurs struggled against Lokomotiv Plovdiv, and that happened on a Thursday night. I didn't watch that game because, frankly, I didn't want to. Have better things to do with my life than watch Spurs play Plovdiv. But believe me, Spurs. I saw the highlights on that game. Spurs were shit in that game too. They didn't score until 79 minutes in that game. They got a penalty and they didn't score until Plovdiv had two red cards. So it sort of felt like my transfers out, Kane and Son, were validated by that performance because they were terrible. And this first half at Southampton, Southampton was actually the better team against Spurs. But that second half was just a completely different story because it was just inexplicable because even though like I had other options, I could play Charlie Taylor in my 11, but I still chose two Southampton defenders. But that second half was just unreal. Like Southampton were playing such a high line. They were defending near the center circle, and all four goals that Son scored, they were all similar. And that's just, I suppose, an anomaly because they were so easy to score. And like, man, that Sunday was terrible. Chelsea, I'm a Chelsea fan, so Chelsea was playing Liverpool later that night. We lost. Spurs had this crazy run. I obviously got them out for a hit, and obviously the guys I got in ended up doing jack shit. Like Bruno and Martial, complete duds in game week 1. United had a terrible game against Palace. So yeah, that was that, and that's all she wrote for me. And I was in just such a bad slump. Like I didn't feel like talking to anyone, and that's what FPL can do to you at its worst. But yeah, so the rest of my team, I suppose, Mitrovic, like I said, was the only saving grace for me. Scored two against Leeds. Oba, I expected more from him, but I wasn't too disappointed by that because the entire world had Oba as their captain that week, so wasn't too disappointed by him just registering an assist at home to West Ham. And for the rest of my team, like yeah, everything's pretty much there. Trent had the assist against no, Trent had the clean sheet and bonus against Chelsea. But apart from that, just a terrible game week. Terrible. And after such a bad week, you're almost tempted to play the wild card, which a lot of people did for game week 3, right? To just get their teams right and bring in Man City assets and United assets and whatnot. I suppose not United assets, too many of them, because they were just terrible against Palace. But whatever. We move. We go again. Chalo, koi baat nahi. Ho gaya jo ho gaya. So then game week 3, I was so tempted to play the wild card. I almost pushed that button, but I'm glad I didn't because well, game week 3, I mean, you would have, I mean, it's quite common knowledge by now that wild carded teams actually had a lower average than teams that didn't play a chip or didn't do much with their team, just made the free transfer and stuff. So I was glad because well, I mean, a lot of players I would have moved out on my wildcard ended up giving me a good haul. Bruno there, McCarthy in goal. So, so yeah, I was glad. And for game week 3, well, let's just go by this bit by bit. McCarthy was glad to get a clean sheet from him away to Burnley. Who was Ben Davies playing that week? Newcastle at home. Well, I was expecting, to be honest, a clean sheet from him. But especially after Newcastle the previous week had a bad week against Brighton, and yeah, they lost 3-0 at home. They were swept by Brighton really badly. They had a poor performance, and so I took a hit again. And whom did I get out that week? I think I got out Alan Saint Maximin. I got out Alan Saint Maximin. Got in Helder Costa from Leeds for him, and who else? Who else did I transfer? Oh yeah, I got out Aubameyang for Kevin De Bruyne. So yeah, my team was pretty much almost the same. I'm just going to explain my transfers here real quick. Alan Saint Maximin picked up a niggle against Brighton. So already, like I said, wasn't really enthusiastic about having him. By then, I had identified some of the other good 5.5 options, Wolves had good options, but I was leaning more towards Leeds because Leeds just looked like such an adventurous attacking team with their options. Helder Costa had a double-digit haul, I believe, the previous week. Jack Harrison was a good option. So for me, and Matthias Click had risen in price by then. He had risen to 5.6. So I mean, I just sort of let go of that thought. Uh, and yeah, so I mean, I didn't want to pay the extra point one. So it was between Jack Harrison and Helder Costa for me. I picked Costa because my co-host for the podcast, Jivesh Sehgal, highly recommended Helder Costa. So I went with him. Not a bad pick, even though Jack Harrison got the assist that week and had he was looking better. Helder Costa was hogging the touchline, so I wasn't too enthusiastic. I mean, I thought Harrison ले लेता तो better होता, but well, I guess that's what hindsight does. And then De Bruyne for Aubameyang. Mm. After game week 2 against Wolves, I wanted to get Oba out because he was starting to then come into a difficult run of fixtures, especially all the away games. They have Liverpool away, then the next to next game week they have City away, so all that. So I wanted to get Oba out, which I think was a very common transfer, obviously because Oba dropped in price since then. And then the choice was clearly between the two Man City heavy hitters, Kevin De Bruyne or Raheem Sterling. And I know post lockdown last season, since after Project Restart, Sterling outscored De Bruyne, but I still went for De Bruyne even though he had risen in price. I picked him up at 11.6. So that's just a pet peeve. I don't really like that price rise, playing that point 0.1 a bit more. But that's just a mistake I was making so much last season that I think I had to learn from it. And I went for De Bruyne because in the game against Wolves, De Bruyne was playing the number 10 role, right? And by then, in that point, penalties were playing such a huge part in the season. They were all the talk, like all the stupid penalties being conceded for the new handball rule. So De Bruyne, the penalty taker there, and he was against Wolves. He was playing in the number 10 role. So I saw maybe De Bruyne getting more, and De Bruyne is just a bonus point magnet, right? So just picked KDB over Sterling that week. And even though didn't get a return from him at home to Leicester, was a bit disappointed by that. But whatever, wasn't too sad because a lot of people made that transfer, I suppose, and so maybe they all had like a similar line of thinking. And Sterling didn't register anything that week either. So game week 3, I would like to talk about Bruno Fernandes here. That 12-point haul was so misleading because I watched the United game away to Brighton. They were dominated throughout the game, especially the second half. Like Brighton was so dominant, and well, that just goes to prove that I mean, Bruno, United didn't have a great game, but Bruno can still haul. Like he obviously had that penalty after the full time whistle, had that assist for Ashford, but I was just not convinced. And at that 10.5 price point, I thought, I mean, obviously United wins a lot of penalties. The trend has continued for a bit, but I thought surely that cannot sustain, right? I mean, I thought, and I read a few stats too that Bruno's open play XG, expected goals, were very, very low. I don't remember quite how much, but very low. And I thought for a 10.5 investment, so all those thoughts I had about building the team around Bruno Fernandes, I now started to have second thoughts. And yeah, I just thought that 10.5 price point, it's a very big investment for someone who's you're gonna bank on them to score penalties here and there. Yeah, didn't want to continue with that, and also wanted to make other transfers. By that point, I wasn't convinced on Martial either, and you can see that I didn't have any Everton or Leicester forwards, and then Wolves was gonna have a good run from there on. So I was just like not very happy with my team. Again, took a hit for game week 3. So now I was tempted to wildcard for game week 4, which is exactly what I did. Now, first things first, I know that just the week preceding an international break is not the best time to wildcard, right? Because especially when COVID times, like you don't know who's going to come back with the Rona from international duty. and who you don't know who's going to pick up an injury here or there. So usually, traditionally, the week before the international break is not a great time to wildcard. But I did it anyway. I just thought, fuck it, let's take the risk because I was quite unhappy with my team, and there were a lot of guys I wanted to get in, and especially like this is my team for game week 4. These are my options on the bench, but especially for I wanted to play the wild card to get in some Leicester options, man, because I was watching Leicester up till that point. They were looking great, so I really wanted to get Harvey Barnes in. And oh yeah, I mean, before I was just whatever, I'll go back to it. But before I was starting this show, I just thought after game week 1 and the team I picked, I would do a little segment on the players I really wanted, players I had in a lot of my drafts for game week 1, but ended up not going with them. And top of that list were two guys, Andy Robertson and Harvey Barnes. So Andy Robertson is my favorite non-Chelsea player in the league. I just love watching him, and I think double Liverpool defense is really something that would have been a differentiator because not too many people were going with that, and it's not a very bad option to go with because Robertson, so see, Trent everyone had, right, but Robertson priced at 7. I thought compare Robertson price at 7 with midfielders or attackers in that same price point, and consider over the course of the season, I think it's likelier that Robertson will give you more points, even if it's like fixtures away against City or Everton, Chelsea, whatever. You would want to have Robertson because he can get the clean sheet, but the clean sheet is a bonus to what he can offer attackingly. So did not end up doing that because, like I said, I just second guessed myself, and I thought double Liverpool in the first few weeks may be a bit of a risk because Liverpool, they finished last season after they'd already won the title. They weren't playing the best football and didn't know what to expect from them. They had Arsenal and Chelsea. They had Arsenal at home and Chelsea away in the first 3 weeks. So I thought maybe investing that much money in a double Liverpool defense was probably going to be a bit risky. So I ended up not going with Robbo. And Harvey Barnes was this one other player who I sort of really wanted to fit into my team but didn't do that. Why? Because I don't know. यार मैं पहले तो अपनी शर्ट का बटन बंद कर लेता हूँ. मैं काफ़ी टाइम से कॉन्शियस हो जा रहा हूँ. वैसे माई चेस्ट हेयर आर वेरी विजिबल. So Harvey Barnes. I don't know, I just had this very instinctive feeling about him that this is the season that he's going to come very good, and that he's going to actually improve in leaps and bounds. And he had, I think, 10 goals and a lot of assists last season. I thought he's going to kick on and have an even better season this year. No stats or anything to base that on, just an instinctive feeling. I also really like him as a player, very direct. And all the Leicester games I've watched this season, I have really liked his style. Like, he picks the ball up, just turns back and just runs at the goal. Either looks Havardi or the wing backs, but is very, very direct. So yeah, I just really liked the thought of picking him, but didn't go with him in game week 1. So yeah, coming now to my wild card, which I did in game week 4, a lot of players I wanted to get in. You could in some ways say that I actually did base my wild card around Leicester City because they were playing great football by then, and I really wanted to get in Castagna, who is a very, very attacking wing back. Castan, however you pronounce it, I'm going to pronounce it as Castan because it sounds less pretentious as an Indian. And then Harvey Barnes, I obviously didn't have any Everton options by then, so I had to get in DCL. So this is something that this is another FPL pet peeve I have. Mistakes I have made in previous seasons. I get very egoistic about Moneyball picks who have a great run and rise up in price. Like last season you had Teemu Pukki. A very, very long ago, in that 2012-13 or 13-14 season, you had Aaron Ramsey. So yeah, I mean, I get very egoistic about these things because if I don't have them from the start, I hate to get these guys in after this, their price has risen by 0.3 or 0.4. And that has bitten me a lot in the past. So I thought it's a good time to learn from my mistakes, and DCL was again one of those. DCL I was still considering even when I played my wild card. DCL I was still considering not getting exactly because of that pet peeve, and I actually had Patrick Bamford instead and invested some of my money elsewhere. But then DCL scored that hat trick in the Carabao Cup midweek. I don't remember who it was against. I think it was a Premier League side only. So DCL scored that hat trick again in midweek, and I thought, well, I just can't afford to make the same mistake again, so I have to get DCL in. And yeah, so then the guys I got in were Castan, I got in Robo to make a double Liverpool defense, so very expensive defense there. I had Ruben Vinagre in the first 11, and Daniel Amate was actually on the bench. I thought Amate also at home to West Ham would be a good fixture, even though West Ham had a very crazy result the previous week. They smashed Wolves 4-0, but I thought I didn't watch that game, so I didn't know what transpired. But I thought, yeah, Marte as the first pick on the bench would be a safe pick. Wasn't. He didn't last. He obviously is a bit injury prone. He's had a bad injury track record. So he didn't last the 60 minutes, and of course they conceded so many goals too. So he ended up hauling for zero. Ruben Vinagre. So yeah, he was one of the options lots of people had for game week 1. But then his thing was a bit confusing, right? Like, does Nuno Espirito Santo want him out, or what his scene was? But he had a fixture at home to Fulham, and he played 90 minutes in the previous week. And I heard a lot of talk. I was on Twitter a bit, and I heard that Roman Saiz was the one who underperformed severely. I'll just turn the AC off because I think that adds a lot of turbulence to the sound. So yeah, just excuse me for a second. Yeah, so I hope the sound's a bit better now. Thank you if you have still stuck with us in spite of that. But yeah, Ruben Vinagre, he didn't play that week, and I was disappointed. And then of course in the before the transfer window ended, he was loaned out to Olympiacos, loaned out or sold, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he was out, and I was just a bit sad about that because Wolves obviously had the clean sheet. They were the bookmakers' favorites to register a clean sheet this week, and of course they did. But I didn't get any for that. So yeah, disappointing. But the rest of my team's makeup looked like this. I was very happy with McCarthy's return, 9 points in goal. And like I said, Leicester, I had such high hopes from them at home to West Ham, but they disappointed thoroughly. It was a very painful watch because West Ham was just outplayed. They had the most of the ball. They had more of the ball, but they were countered with great effect. They were countered against with great effect. Antonio, man, like Antonio is one guy I am going to look at in the coming weeks because he is very impressive so far. So very disappointed by Barnes to Castan one. Even though I did really like the positions Castan was getting into. I remember 87th minute tha Vardy almost had like a one-on-one. He was a bit central, so he couldn't square the ball to Castan. He had a one-on-one, but the next player, the supporting Leicester player in the box was Castan. So I expect like maybe that was just a one-off bad week, and maybe he can register good returns in the coming weeks. DCL very happy that he scored when I got him in. And Sterling, yeah. So I went with Sterling over De Bruyne. Why? Because I saw De Bruyne play the number 10 role against Wolves away and at Leicester. But my thinking there was that so Pep actually played two traditional defensive midfielders. He played Fernandinho and Rodri together, something which he rarely does. But he did that against Wolves away, and he did that against Leicester. I think the reason behind that was because City really struggled last season against both these teams. Not as much against Leicester as much they did. They had the double, they conceded the double to Wolves. But Leicester also thought that it's just this team that Guardiola was a bit wary against. So he played Fernandinho and Rodri, both of them. But then in midweek, they had a Carabao Cup fixture away to Burnley. And Burnley is really not that attacking, right? So in that fixture, I saw that game and I saw De Bruyne playing deeper in midfield next to Rodri. So, and Raheem Sterling closer to goal. So that just convinced me. I thought in open play, Sterling is going to get more points, and I was happy that he registered the goal and a bonus point, 2 bonus points, and I got De Bruyne out. So happy that that worked out, and that's something I think I'm going to stick with over the course of the season. Like so, in premium midfield options, there's just a lot of options this season, right? You have Sterling, De Bruyne, Auba, Mane too. So I think if I'm going to lean towards City, I think over the course of the season, I'm going to lean towards Sterling more than KDB. And yeah, Callum Wilson registered 16 points this week. Was very, very happy with that. I know a lot of very, very astute stats based FPL pundits didn't really rate Callum Wilson at all because his stats look bad. But I think, like I said, the talisman, I try to get in as many talisman as I can. And Wilson is looking quite good for Newcastle. He doesn't register as many chances, but he's quite a clinical striker, and which is why I want him in my team. And if I'm gonna go with stick with that price point, for the moment I'm quite happy with him. And maybe once West Ham has better fixtures, I might move to Antonio, but who knows. And then in my bench, like I didn't change my keeper. I got back Bissouma, and I have Ollie Burke from Sheffield, who is a 4.5 midfield option. But so far for Sheffield, he's playing up top in a two-man striker role. That looks promising, even though Sheffield isn't scoring too many. But like 4.5 midfielders से और क्या चाहते हो यार. And yeah, so this was my team post wildcard. Quite happy with it. Hope not too many of them pick up injuries in the international break. And the international break usually is a time when you leave your team B. You don't touch it too much unless your wild card is active. But I already had to make my free transfer for this week because of course Ruben Vinagre is now not in the Premier League anymore, and so I mean his price had already fallen by the time I made my transfer. So I wanted to avoid it falling further, so I moved him out. I have gotten Luke Ayling in from Leeds, and I really like the two Leeds fullbacks, Ayling and Stuart Dallas, right? Whatever, Dallas. I was leaning more towards Dallas than Ayling because he looks like his overlapping runs look very, 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 very promising. And I would maybe lean more towards Dallas, but I'm not too sad about having Ayling either. I went Ayling over Dallas because I think Dallas he's on international duty for Northern Ireland. I would really suck if he picks up an injury and I have him in my team. So didn't want to do that. Ayling, I don't know if he's been picked for England yet. I don't think he has. Even if he has, he's not going to play right back over Trent and all the other options England have. And also, just the other point to convince me was the only clean sheet Leeds have kept so far. Ayling registered one bonus point in that. So, yeah, that's why I chose that. Now I have this as my team. I have, I think, some money in the bank. I have zero point 0.7. So I do have some plans somewhere in the near future, but I think I am going to just stick with Castan for now. I really don't like investing that much money in my defense, but I'm going to stick with Castan for now because his fixtures look good. But at some point, I really am going to bring him down to a young Lamptey, former Chelsea fullback. Looks so good that Bayern Munich is interested in him. I have looked at, I follow Barcelona Twitter a lot, and those guys are really impressed by Lamptey, so that's his pedigree. And at some point, I am going to bring Lamptey in for most likely Castan, and I'm gonna maybe upgrade my midfield a little bit. I'm gonna give Harvey Barnes a little bit of time, and but like if the returns don't start coming, even though I've been watching his games, I've watched all his games. First game against West Brom, he was very unlucky to not register points because he had lots of shots, but they were all saved by the keeper. He had a double-digit haul at home against Burnley, and so yeah, just giving him a bit of time. But if he doesn't start registering, I might have to change soon, and I'll likely go for Pulisic because my favorite player in the league. I have to have him. and I just love watching Pulisic play. He's just so direct. But to get in Chelsea assets, I don't have them yet, because to get in Chelsea assets, I'm really waiting for Ziyech to become fit, because I think he's gonna. I'm just so excited about Ziyech. I hope he brings his Eredivisie form to the Premier League, because he's just so creative. His passing is world class, and I'm telling you right now, even though these two guys haven't linked up yet, but I'm telling you right now, I think the Ziyech from the right channel playing that diagonal into the box to Werner and Pulisic is going to be a staple play this season. And I think both Pulisic and Werner can really benefit from that. So yeah, I'm waiting for Chelsea to be full strength first before I get their assets in. And yeah, this is pretty much my team. So let me know if you have any comments. And I would really like to thank, because this podcast has gone on a bit long, and if you're stuck so far with me by now, I'm really glad if you have, because honestly, I'm a beginner at this podcast thing, right? And when Jivesh and I are doing it, it's still a very cool dynamic, because you have someone to talk to. But right now, I'm literally just looking into a camera and chatting, and sometimes it can feel like just talking into the void a bit. So yeah, so if you've stuck with me thus far, I am really glad you did. Let me know if you have, and let me know in the comments. Let us know in the comments, and yeah, just tell me how you rate my team, and yeah. Hopefully gonna be doing more of these, probably most likely when the international breaks come around. So yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.